On this note, I think I'm going to preview the NFL playoffs for the fun of it. Ish. This is actually a true statement, by the way. I realize this. The Packers only have one divisional win all year. The Bears. And even then, they got outplayed in that one and should have lost if it wasn't due to Chicago's own ineptitude. And then this past Sunday, they literally lose at home. And I don't want to hear no excuses. I'm sorry. To the Packer fans that are calling it like it is, thank you for being smart, being real. I was going to say actually that this isn't going to count as a big time win for the Bears in my opinion if the Packers were to rest their starters. I thought they were going to, like, straight up. They played their starters. They tried to win the game. They had to get a game in. They had to get this to play this game because they had seeding on the line, and they haven't played well up for the last few weeks. And you're going into the playoffs, you need to win a game that's going to be treated like a playoff game. And that Bears game was going to be a playoff game because, say what you want, they're not going to let you come in there and just punk them. You knew that. So playing the backups was not an option. So they played their starters. And even after an injury or two, they kept their starters in. Even on defense, the starters stayed in. So this was a legit win. The Bears won this game. Malik Willis was proven to be very capable as a quarterback. Heck, I don't think there's been much of a downgrade from Jordan Love to him, seeing as though up until this point he won like 2 games. So there is no excuse. I'm sorry to just say this. The Packers are not that good of a team, and I said this at the beginning of the year. I said the Packers are not going to be as good as everyone thought they were. I thought they had a nice little not fluke run, that's not right to say. They had a nice little run. It was a very fortunate run, and Jordan Love was on fire. And I always say with the NFL, the problem that people don't seem to understand with the NFL, and this is why I caution people on Jaden Daniels, why I caution people on Bo Nix, it's not about the rookie year. It's when they have tape on you. When they get any amount of tape on you, how they adjust. And you will start to see in the playoffs, this is what's going to separate them from the boys. Tape's going to be on plenty on these guys, and they're going to start looking at their tendencies and taking them away. So understand, I was very skeptical on the Packers because I thought that year they overachieved at a great deal last year. Now they made the playoffs this year, but they went 1-6 in the division. And I'm sorry, I know Minnesota's had a good year. Minnesota's the type of team to have this type of year, and the next year win like 8 games, and then we're all just going, duh, not really. This happens all the time. You should have won. You should have easily split one versus Minnesota. No excuse. No excuse to not split one versus Minnesota. Detroit, you could have easily split one, but you got clowned the entire time. Let's just be honest. They toyed with you. The Bears, you had no business splitting with to begin with because they outplayed you in both games. You were lucky there were miscues again, self-inflicted gunshot wounds from the Bears here. So the Packers, I am not surprised that this is happening to them, and I am a little pleasantly surprised the Bears walked in there and actually took that win, and it shows that the future is bright, and they chose the right kid at quarterback, but there's some big issues that I have at Green Bay. So let's get into it with the playoff preview. I'm only doing the NFC, so let's just start there. I want to start with Bucks and Commanders. I have nothing really against either of these two teams. I mean, I know we had our little thing with the Commanders and some of their fans being delusional and whatever, but that's not really my problem. Objectively speaking, this is a game that can go either way. I don't know how this will go. The Bucks could walk in there and blow them out by 20, it wouldn't shock me. They could lose by 10, wouldn't shock me. I don't know. It depends on how Baker Mayfield's going to play this. It depends on how the Bucks show up. It depends on how their defense can control the game. The first game of the year, they handled the Commanders with ease. This is not the same Commanders team. This is a Commanders team within their system. They know what they're doing. Jane Daniels has had some heroics during the year. Had some fortunate heroics. Had some heroics that he's inflicted by himself. He's done great. But now this is when the real shit begins. Teams are not going to sit there and give you the space that you were once accustomed to. They're going to hit you out of bounds. They're going to try and freaking murder you in the playoffs. It's just going to happen that way. And certain things are not going to go the way you think they should go. So you're going to have to look to adjust. Dan Quinn, as much as I am happy by the revelation of Dan Quinn and what he's done, I have my skepticism on him as a coach still. There were some games that he lost on the stretch because of his decision-making. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he fares against a team that, honestly, is led by a Super Bowl experienced staff. This is not Todd Bowles has been here before. Todd Bowles has made his mistakes in the playoffs before and learned from them. This is a team that beat the living hell out of the last NFC East team last year that tried to come up in there. And now, granted, it was a different circumstance and a Philly team that's just not the same as they are this year. But even though that being said, you're now sitting here going, okay, now you're walking into a Lions den here potentially. My honest opinion, I believe the Bucs should win this 23-20. I think that they are the more experienced team. They're better equipped for this, and I believe that Baker Mayfield is not going to be deterred by to me, while playing above their pay grade, like actually really overachieving defense that is, and that's again due to good coaching by Dan Quinn, overachieving defense that is in Washington, I think there's gonna be some things that are gonna come out and kind of be a problem. I will say the Bucs are a team that I do feel for, because this is bittersweet, because Chris Godwin should be here, and unfortunately, shit happens. So I do have my eye on them. I think they are a dark horse in the playoffs potentially, who can possibly walk in and beat anyone. It wouldn't shock me. It includes Philly. I don't think there's any dominant team in the playoffs that's up to including Detroit. They don't strike me as dominant. None of them do. And I've seen it this year. A lot of teams all these teams can be had on any given Sunday. There is no real dominant team. And maybe that's the sake how it's been the last 15 years, to be honest with you. A lot of teams could have easily been on the other side of a lot of decisions. So now we move on from that. We move on to now Minnesota and LA. Minnesota and LA is an interesting matchup for me. I'm going to be honest with you. I truly believe that Minnesota's about to get bounced out the playoffs, and possibly in embarrassing fashion. Now this sounds crazy, but I'm not been really that impressed with Minnesota. I think they've overachieved a lot this year due to very special circumstances at times, but also because I think Kevin O'Connell's just one hell of a coach. Unfortunately, when it comes to real, let's just be honest for a minute, dude. Anyone really thinks Sam Darnold has it? And it sounds like I'm shitting on Darnold. I think Darnold has played himself into having a shot at a job next year, including Minnesota. I do not believe that you're going to be dumb enough to try and start J.J. McCarthy next year off of an ACL tear. That is absolutely asinine, and I don't think you should do that. That being said, I don't believe Sam Darnold is the guy to get you a win here. Not at all. You're going into an experienced team that has a quarterback who is a Super Bowl winning champion. You have receivers. You now have Higbee back. The defense has finally figured it out. They have switched up, and they are so much better than they were. They are so much better defensively. They've actually changed their philosophy. They've played differently. They're not as high scoring, high flying as used to be. They're very ball possession oriented, and now their defense is carrying more of the load now, with more man to man, more single high, and you have revelations coming in from the young crew, like Jared Verse. I forgot the other one from Florida State. You also have now, by the way, shout out to Cameron Kinch. I told y'all, Cameron Kinchins, people are gonna regret not taking him in the first 2 rounds that they should have, and he has proven a lot of people to look stupid over that. So now, of course, you have that. You have young players coming in flux with older players. It's a very nice mix. This is a team I would not want to see on any given Sunday. If I'm Detroit, I don't want to see them. I think we all know why Detroit doesn't want to see the Rams. We all know how it's going to go. That is going to be, at the very least, a pain in the ass. Minnesota will also be the kind of same pain in the ass. Of course, it's divisional. It's nothing to ever take lightly. But if I'm to be honest, who I'd rather face Minnesota, because at least you know what Minnesota, I don't have to worry about Sam Darnold putting like 340 on me with 6 touchdowns out of his ass, because Matt Stafford can do that. Matt Stafford could lose you a game, but Matt Stafford is also damn real capable of making your life a living hell. I have seen it. We have all seen it. This man outplayed Tom Brady when it counted. That happened. That is facts. So let's just be real. Be very, 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 very aware of the Rams. Be very aware. Now we move on to the last bit of this, and I guess this is perfect because now I get to talk about the Green Bay stuff more at length, but also really talk about this matchup because, granted, now, like I said, the Bears did get a legitimate win because this is what Green Bay was trying to avoid. And this is not, I'm not going to put the notion that they're scared of Philly. No, don't. This is the NFL. No. This is a matchup that no one wants to deal with because of the following. A, weather. While, yes, it's Green Bay. They're used to this. You would much rather play in a dome. They started their playoff run last year in a dome for a reason. That's a good thing. You want to play in a dome. So yes, you would have wanted to play in either a dome or just nice weather, like Tampa. So you would have wanted the Tampa matchup. Now, of course, it's kind of a moot point in the grand scheme because Washington was going to win that game and they're going to be the 6 seed either way, and they're going to play in Tampa. But Green Bay didn't know that. And you come in that game you knew you had to have, and you look lackadaisical. You were down 14-3 to a Bears team that was kind of not trying to really do much offensively. I mean, they're just trying to not have Caleb die. So it's not a good look. And he still outplayed you when it counted. So that's a problem. You also gashed in the run when it counted. That's a major problem. Those are two things now you have to think about going, Caleb Williams, a rookie, just walked into Lambeau, a place the Bears have not won in a decade, and legitimately a decade. And he just basically flipped us off and won. Drove him down the field. This has happened twice in a year. Caleb Williams has done this to you. He ran the ball over you twice in a year. All right? The Bears, who struggle to do anything that is, that requires a forward pass. This is a team that I struggle to understand if they even understand what the word offense means, other than being offensive to their fan base. You let them run all over you. You now have to tell me you're going to stop Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. You've lost Christian Watson for the year, and probably all of next year. And Jordan Love has an elbow issue that may or may not be major, depending with gripping the ball. You are in the deepest pile of crap I could think of. And I will be honest, this is an indictment on Matt LaFleur, because I don't know how your team has felt like they've just regressed and have been fortunate due to certain matchups this year versus actually being legit. I mean, you beat up an injured and frankly just half-hearted Niners team, and you're like, oh, that's a big one. No, it's not a big one. I'm sorry, but that Niners team is a shell of itself. Next year, I hardly think you're going to beat them like that again. 2, you got by Chicago, but you shouldn't have won that game. You all know that because, you committed a penalty to do that. I'm sorry, it was a penalty, but even then, who cares? I think the main problem was the fact the Bears have bad personnel on there. Clearly, they didn't have it this time. You shouldn't have won that game, and you know it. That one's a bust. You got clowned by Detroit 2 times. Beaten by Minnesota in Lambeau. That should not happen. Yes, losing in Minnesota is one thing. Losing in Lambeau? That's not a good look. You've lost home field advantage completely. People don't fear going to Lambeau. It used to be a pain in the ass to go up to Lambeau. Now it's like, they're soft. Whatever. Again, Thomas Brown and that team outplayed you. And honestly, outcoached you. With all the misfortunes that they put on themselves. How do you get outcoached by a team that ran a trick play to get picked off, thrown by Keenan Allen? That is embarrassing. Oh, the Bears could have, if they were competent, they could have won that game by like 10 plus. That's the sad part. It's like the NFL equivalent of Michigan versus Ohio State. That's what that game was. The same equivalent of just how. Difference was Caleb Williams is nowhere near as bad as whatever the fuck Michigan was trotting out there. Still didn't matter. Now you're telling me the NFL MVP candidate, and he isn't going to win, but still a historic season, Saquon Barkley. You're gonna tell me you're gonna stop that guy? You're gonna stop Jalen Hurts on the other side of it too? Just running QB run? You're not. You're in some deep shit. Your defense is suspect. You got a pretty bad injury losing Jair Alexander, and you saw that when DJ Moore kind of just bullied you. And their key plays he made. I'm telling you, Chicago, if they had Thomas Brown in the booth, would have probably tore you up by like a lot more points. I'm saying this. The Packers look bad. And they don't just look bad. They look soft. This is the softest Green Bay team I've ever watched in my life. They look soft up front. I don't remember Caleb taking more than like 1 sack that day. Now you're telling me you're going into Philly, a team that, I'm sorry, they are going to do what the Bears did to you, but 10 times worse and at a much higher rate. They don't have to really pass the ball. They just got to run it, play ball possession, and just let their defense kick your ass. And with Jordan Love, I don't know which one's going to show up. Dum Dum or the man that y'all paid all that money for. Because I'll be real with you, he had twice as many interceptions basically as he could have had. Way more interceptions this year. That's the scary part. But you had what, 12 interceptions, and you played like, you missed like 2 games. Imagine where those numbers could be, either really bad or much better. But I'm leaning towards more turnovers. He has major issues with reading a defense. I'm sorry, he just does. He makes very ill-fated decisions. There's times he's great, and there's times just like, what are you doing? How are you starting? Then you have the issue of play calling. I will say this. I am very perplexed by the Packers' play calling. Even against the Bears, why didn't you run the ball more? Why were you trying to, again, like, there's no situational awareness from Matt LaFleur where you're sitting there throwing the ball against a team that has so many holes and injuries. Run the ball, because the Bears don't have a defensive line due to injury and due to Ryan Poles' horrific freaking drafting and free agency work. Ugh. No depth, 0 depth. It's actually embarrassing how bad that depth is. I mean, when we had to get Jonathan Ford to play, that's not good. So clearly there's a problem there, and you didn't exploit it, and it was screaming you in the face. I'm sure the fans are just going, run the damn ball. Pretty sure they're making the blindside memes from run the dang ball. Run the dang ball. It's not hard. I don't understand why they didn't. I'm confused by that. You put Malik Willis in very, very, very bad spots. And then you're going to walk into Philly and tell me that they're going to just bounce in, and no, you're in some trouble. And I'll be honest with you, this could be really embarrassing really quickly if they do not come out and pounce hard. Now, this is the type of game that is a trap game for Philly. You think this is a Green Bay team that has come out, played like shit. They've not looked good. The Bears just freaking, just punked them. They didn't just beat them. They punked them. They punched them in the mouth multiple times. You're thinking, easy win. If I'm Philly, if you get a chance to go 21-0 on them, you go up 28-0. You do not want to let a team like this hang around, because at the end of the day, they still have enough talent to make your life a living hell and upset you. So my thought process is, I think Philly's going to walk in there and beat them 35-13. I think it's going to be bad. I think the score won't even do justice to how bad that could be. That's what I'm thinking. Part of me will think, though, that this is Philly sleepwalking and you rested starters. So Jalen Hurts has not played in like 3-4 weeks. You sat Saquon. If you are smart, if you are Philly and you're smart here, you are running the ball heavy to start this game. You are punching they clearly got punched in the mouth by the Bears 2 times this year. You need to run the ball. Keep running it physically, because unlike the Bears, you have the advantage of the running back position. You really do. You have an advantage. You have such an advantage. The running back position is not even funny, because you have Saquon. Bears don't have a Saquon. And you also have a line. The Bears don't even have a line yet. Believe me, the Bears could change fortunes in this draft very quickly, but I will say this. That tape is not looking good for Matt LaFleur and not looking good for this new defensive coordinator who, frankly, the Bears have not been... I mean, I'm talking about the Bears' perspective, and the reason I say this is because this is the one team that Green Bay should always count on to get right against and just bully. You got bullied. You got 2 times this year the Bears literally were not fazed by you. They had to lose the game for you to win, to split one. I'm being honest. They outplayed you 2 times this year, and it really was not particularly fun to watch if you're a Packers fan, because you thought the first one was like, hey, lackadaisical, we'll walk through, maybe you took them lightly. You come into Lambeau with shit on the line. I'm just saying, and now you're going to Philly. That matchup's going to be a living nightmare if they don't get it together quickly. And it's going to raise some questions about the coaching staff, in my opinion. A lot of questions about the coaching staff, because if I'm a fan, I'm questioning why the hell the defense looks way worse than last year with seemingly, as I thought, a more competent defensive coordinator. Why is the defense looking worse? Why is the defense getting out physical? Why are they getting punched in the mouth? That shouldn't be happening. You should not be getting out muscled by a Bears offensive line that was actually injured as hell. They weren't even healthy. They weren't even as healthy as they were the first time they played you, and yet they controlled you. This is something you have to understand is going to be a very big issue going forward if you are going to contend. So the reason I make the Packers a big story in this is it's a team that is in a very big limbo land because you put all that money to Jordan Love, and I'm going to be honest, this year you have more questions than answers about him. Is he really the guy? Or is he going to be someone that you have to keep an eye on that makes too many turnovers? Is he the guy? Who knows? You put a lot of money into Josh Jacobs, and yet it looks like Matt LaFleur is not intent on leaning on him more to try and push this offense that really I don't think is going to work. The offense that you're wanting to run is not going to work with injuries and the fact that Jordan Love and his decision making has not been up to par. You're going to have to run the damn... to me, I don't understand it from Green Bay. Run the fucking ball. Just run it. Run it till you can't run it no more. Play action and hope for the best. It's really not that hard of a concept. You're going into Philly. They could blow you out in the first quarter. If I am Green Bay, I'm running the ball. And better hope that Jordan Love can throw. Malik Willis could win. Could you win a playoff game with Malik Willis? If everything goes right, sure. But I doubt it. So if I'm Green Bay, I'm a Green Bay fan, I am petrified with how this might look. But the only saving grace is Philly has had a few weeks off. At least their quarterback has. You have a week off due to resting the starters. Take advantage of that first quarter because I do believe Philly's going to come out lackadaisical. Take advantage of it and stay ahead of schedule. Because I'm going to be honest, Green Bay, this is not just this was the Bears game. This has been a trend. They have been soft, they have been susceptible, and they have been punked by the division. I mean, again, you can sit there and say, oh, Jordan Love got hurt in the Bears game. You were down 14-3 with Jordan Love in the game. And again, you scored a touchdown and you had the lead late. Jordan Love did the same thing in Chicago, and you only won because of a fucking mishap. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you guys as a team look pretty bad.